Welcome to All Horse Racing All the Time. I'm Alan, your host, bringing you a Santa Anita Derby recap and the takeaways from the results of the race. Well, this race lived up to the billing. Santa Anita Derby had journalism in there entering already as a likely favorite to the Kentucky Derby. We had Citizen Bull, the 2-year-old champion for Bob Baffert. We had Barnes, the $3.2 million horse, looking to punch his ticket, entry, get some points for the Kentucky Derby to qualify. And we had John Sheriffs with Biza, who was basically in it to win the race, win, and you're into the Derby. What's the takeaway there? Second place probably wouldn't be enough. Well, I'll tell you what. What took place yesterday answers a lot of questions going forward. And one of the things we looked at here is Bob Baffert, 5 entries in the race, and he had two of them. And what took place there, is almost like somebody coming into John Sheriff's, walking into Bob's house, or walking into his building, Santa Anita, and with a smile on his face, walked out with perhaps 1 or 2 of his prized possessions with a smile, and walked right out the door with Bob present, everything. So how did this happen? Well, what happened was this, and I talked about this before the Santa Anita Derby as something to keep an eye on, and it exactly did happen. John Sheriffs, he wanted Biza to get in, didn't want the points cut any further, so he threw in another entry, another one of his entries, Westwood, into the race. I said he was going to be the rabbit, run there and try and open things up for Baeza to probably maybe get a shot for the Derby by softening up Citizen Bull. And Westwood, that's exactly what he did. I didn't think it was going to affect the race the way it did, and I'll tell you why. I figured he'd be the rabbit. Yeah, put pressure on Citizen Bull, who always goes to the front. But the way he did it, Westwood, I mean, he lived up to the billing. He played the rabbit just perfectly. What he did was Westwood ran wicked fractions. The first call, leading at the first call, 22.25 seconds. A 22.25 second opening quarter in a 1 1/8 race. Sheriffs, Westwood, they didn't hold anything back. They sent him out there. Yeah, Barnes lived up to, not Barnes, Citizen Bull lived up to, way he runs, that's the style, take the lead, forced Citizen Bull to run faster than he had in any of his opening first quarter in the races. Gave him everything he could handle. Finally, around the second call, Citizen Bull did manage to slightly wrestle the lead away from Westwood, but the damage had already been done. Citizen Bull had run much quicker than he wanted to or needed to. He had to if he was going to grab the lead like he usually does. And yeah, he did get there, but he didn't get there from the get-go, not by the first call, 22.25. So not only did that really tax Citizen Bull, but also Barnes, who had tried the front-running style in his last race and finished just a little bit behind journalism in his previous race. This time, I guess I thought he was going to be stalking, and he was a couple lengths back through the opening quarters, and that forced him, in essence, Barnes, to run much quicker than he anticipated to previously. The plan was going to be for him to stalk, which he did, but this was more of a sprint to stalk. So he was running faster than he usually done as well. So Westwood hung around for a while, took the wind out of Citizen Bull and Barnes's sails, and they finished 4th, 5th in this race. And Westwood, what did he do? He hung around, and he actually got 3rd at 44-1, just edging out Citizen Bull. And Barnes finishes 5th. Baeza does the plan perfectly, was to get this $1.2 million horse into the Derby with a win, right? Because now second place is only worth 37.5 points or whatever, and instead of the usual 50. So what happens? He almost gives journalism. He almost had enough. His plan was to stalk with a tiring Citizen Bull and perhaps Barnes out of the picture due to Westwood, and set him up to, he had decent early speed to begin with, to finish the job once the other two were out of the picture. Westwood, he was just going to be an afterthought here, but we'll more to him in a minute. Gets the job done. Buys is there, but journalism mows him down at the end. Okay. So what's the takeaways from here? Journalism, he's the real deal. Not one of my favorites. I wasn't 1,000,000% sold, 100% sold on him. I hadn't jumped on the bandwagon for him as the best horse so far, but now I am forced to recognize brilliance. This horse, Journalism, didn't run quite as fast as his last buyer figure. Did come in, I believe, yesterday with a 101 to get to win yesterday, get the job done. What I liked about Journalism was he was up front early with the leaders. When they saw how quick the others were going, the jockey literally stood up a little bit and held them back. So, Journalism can go he's a push button horse. He can be closer to the lead, challenging for the lead, or he can lay back with his EP running style, early presser, whatever. He stayed back a little bit again and turned around and went wide. He was trapped inside by Barnes for a while, but he was very patient, and they went out there, and Journalism went wide and still mowed them down. So we'll see what his sheet numbers are, but even as it is, his regular buyer figures were strong, 101. Good enough to get the job done. And now I'm thinking this one's really a Triple Crown contender. Do I think for sure he's going to win the Derby? Not yet. There are other questions still to be answered, but he's certainly a tremendous horse. And if you see the way he galloped out after the race, terrific. But what impressed me even more, if you watch the replay on your ADW, whatever, around the 3-minute mark, 3 minutes, 25 seconds, where they show him coming back after the race, running back in the direction, opposite direction of where they ran. This horse was having fun. He looked like he was ready to run another race right now, immediately. Running, happy, almost being held back. His joy, his enthusiasm, kind of prancing, semi-gallop almost coming back. I mean, this horse was out of curling. Things really set up strongly for him going forward in these races coming up. Even afterwards, the Preakness and the Belmont Stakes. His distance is not going to be any problem for this one. So keep an eye on Journalism. He looks like the real deal. And now, as a horse racing fan, as an analyst, how do I rank my horse racing? Or where do I stand as far as a horse player? Analyst, top, I do pro analyst. That's probably my first love, analyzing, figure out the race, but it's equally, I'm a horse racing fan. Those are the top two things. As a player, yeah, I pick my spots I play, but as a fan and as an analyst, what I see, I love what I see. I want to see maybe a Triple Crown this year, and Journalism looks like the one that's probably going to do it. What about Citizen Bull? I think that's kind of a black eye here for his Kentucky Derby chances. Why? We saw that if he is pressed and somebody can take over the lead for him, or at least challenge him for it and steal the first call, or be next to him or close, as it was in this race yesterday with Westwood, I think he's going to turn out to be toast, because he was beaten soundly yesterday and fell apart and actually dwindled behind the third place Westwood at 44-1. And this was at 1 1/8. What's going to happen at 1 1/4? Because there's other early speeds in there that are going to be in the Kentucky Derby. Who can challenge him? Well, here's the good thing. The good thing is we know Citizen Bull can run that fast for a while before he falls apart. Okay. But here, that's the good news. If nobody really goes with him in the Derby, maybe he can steal the Derby. He's still a tremendous talent. You got to be respected. But here's the other, and the post positions, all that comes into play. Where's the post position? Is Journalism going to get a bad draw? But here's the bad news for Citizen Bull fans, and it really is kind of gloomy because you have other early speeds in the Derby already. One at least that qualifies. We have Owen Almighty, who'll be running in the Bluegrass Stakes, which has been postponed to Tuesday, and what's going to happen there? Owen Almighty, he's another one, typical front runner. And we already know that Owen Almighty can run the early fractions that he did similar to yesterday's in some of his first races and sprints. Would he try that crap at 1.25 miles? Who the heck knows if it's his only chance? So you got Owen Almighty to contend with for the top spot. And Bob Baffert's his very own 2 entries that right now they look like they have a pretty good chance to get in the Kentucky Derby point standings. Both Getaway Car and Medocket Road both have 46 points and both have a really good chance to get in as of right now. 46 has been 46 points in the past, has always been enough since the new point system has come into play to qualify for the Derby. So Bob's very 2 entries might be the ones that cook Citizen Bull in, a 3-headed monster running for the lead along with Owen Almighty. What about Barnes? Okay, so Citizen Bull question marks there. I think that yesterday's hurt his chances. As far as Barnes go, going to the front, it didn't work. We saw the last time with journalism. Yesterday, forced to go that fast early. Now the distance becomes a question mark for Barnes. He's not going to qualify. Didn't make the Derby. If he had gotten at least second, he would have assured a spot. Now that went up in flames thanks to Sheriffs and Westwood. Gets rid of. So Bob basically took a semi-black eye and a total black eye on Barnes. Not totally his fault. It was a case of Sheriffs outfoxing him and setting up the rabbit, bringing the rabbit into this race. What about Baeza? Did damn near pulled it off. Now he's in there thanks to the limited point system because of only 5 entries. For seconds, he only gets 37.5 points, which puts him really on the bubble. Can he sneak in there now? He's going to need scratches to get in. 37 isn't going to be 37.5 as it stands now is not going to be enough points to qualify for the Derby. He's going to need something happens. If maybe a few of them scratch out, maybe he can get in. Do I see him as a Derby winner? No, it would just be the accolades of getting him in the Kentucky Derby. A nice horse, 1.2 million. But Barnes missing the Derby. I mean, geez, that's, on horse racing, comparing it to the horse racing version of the Hindenburg or Titanic going down. I mean, well, maybe that, in a horse racing sense, for Bob to get ambushed in his own building, Santa Anita yesterday, not totally Bob's fault, but it was an ambush nonetheless. So that's the takeaways there. Journalism looks like the real deal. The Citizen Bull seems purely limited as far as his Derby possibilities to win, and Barnes out of it completely. That's the takeaways there. So who knows? And as far as the Wood Memorial yesterday, Bob Baffert did get some good news. Rodriguez went to Aqueduct, stole the show that he had the ability to go to the front. That's how his breeding suggested. Finally, he did it after doing it in at least one of his earlier races. Usually before the other races, it's running second or somewhere around there. Well, he showed that he can get the 1 1/8 and he could dominate. Came away with a 108 buyer figure, 101 buyer figure on a wet track over at Aqueduct. So how legit is that? In the wet. Anyway, he showed his stamina was there. He had Captain Cook breathing down his back, and Hackman completely fell apart. Captain Cook, and actually just missed third. He actually got nailed for third just late. So he comes out of it with now 35 points, and he's even in a worse position to reach the Derby as well with his 35 points, even less than Beza at this point. So he's probably Dutro not going to the Derby this year because his talent could only take him so far. Citizen Bull probably, not Citizen Bull, Captain Cook, probably a good New York talent. He could probably be a nice stakes winner, but I don't know if I'd go as far as to put him top tier, not after that performance. Well, but Rodriguez is there, and I think he probably has a better chance to do damage in the Kentucky Derby than Citizen Bull, because at least he's not dependent on going to the lead. And Mike Smith did a great job of riding him, letting him go yesterday. So I think Rodriguez is the best of Bob Baffert's entries, one of possibly four that gets in there at this point. So that's the takeaways there. What do you think? Journalism, is he the real deal? Well, yeah, I think there's no doubt there. What do you think about the Citizen Bull? What do you think about the others? What do you think about the race in general? Leave your comments down below. Thanks for watching, everybody, and may the horse be with you.